Прабу, я правильно понимаю, что вот сейчас просто мы вас слышим, когда будут преданные вновь подключаться, вы там уже как-то их сориентируете, то есть либо текстово, либо как-то.
В чате буду говорить.
Что будете?
В чате уже буду писать.
В
Так,
чате, хорошо,
да,
замечательно.
включайте все микрофоны и камеры включайте, пожалуйста.
Преданные, ну что, вот у нас уже 32 человека в чате. Еще раз всем доброго времени суток, поскольку, как мы сегодня узнали, есть также ученики Прахладананда Махараджа с других стран, они будут слушать лекцию на английском. Мы же с вами находимся в нашем субботнем пространстве, когда учителя ИСКОН и старшие преданные по своей милости дают нам некоторое время общения с ними. И сегодня для нас большая удача и большая честь впервые для нас сегодня прочитать лекцию и ответить на вопросы его святейшества Прахладананда Свами. Как вы знаете, это ученик его божественной милости Бхактивиданты Свами Прабхупады. Вот, он родился в 49 году в городе Буффало, штат Нью-Йорк, и в 69 году уже присоединился к преданным. И в том же году был инициирован Прабхупадой. В 76 году, в 75-м точнее, он участвовал в легендарном автобусном проповедническом туре Радха Дамодар. Вы все наверняка об этом читали в Прабхупады Ламриты вместе с Тамал Кришна Госвами и Вишнуджаном Махараджем. И уже в 82 году он принял саньясу и стал одним из инициирующих учителей. Прахладананда Махарадж занимает огромное количество позиций, которые связаны с управлением и направлением нашего замечательного общества ИСКОН. Он также является GBC по многим регионам, как я уже говорил, инициирующим духовным учителем. Ну и, безусловно, к тем преданным, который прожил и живет активной жизнью проповедника, помогает преданным и трудится во славу Шрилы Прабхупады. Поэтому сегодня у нас есть уникальная возможность внимательно послушать этого удивительного преданного. Пожалуйста, включайте свои камеры. Как уже было сказано, Махарадж любит, чтобы лекция была личностной, несмотря на то, что мы общаемся в Zoom. И, пожалуйста, если есть какая-то возможность вооружиться карандашом, бумагой, чтобы записать какие-то для себя тезисы и потом вопросы, тоже это сделайте. Я думаю, это будет не лишним. И, пожалуйста, не забывайте выключать микрофоны, чтобы мы могли со всей внимательностью уже слушать непосредственно лекцию. Поэтому выключаем микрофоны, включаем камеру, и, как вы знаете, у нас будет синхронный перевод, поэтому переходите на русский канал, если вы все еще не там. Харе Кришна.
Харе Кришна, Гуру Махарадж. Гуру Махарадж.
Харе Кришна.
Харе Кришна.
Здравствуйте.
Харе Кришна.
Добрый дошли. And for those Kumari, it's bienvenido.
Hare Krishna, my humble obeisances.
Namo Vishnu Varaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Tanakane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravada Charane Sirvishesha Srinivadi Paspayade Charane. So I've been asked to say something about Kartik. So Kartik is one of the major events that happens during the year. As a matter of fact, it's one of the few events that lasts for a whole month. There's every 3 years we have an extra month added, but it's not quite the same type of festivals that we have during Kartik. As a matter of fact, in that extra month, there are usually no festivals. But Kartik is a time of the year in India where usually, at least in Vrindavan, the climate is quite agreeable. It's pleasant. Well, most of the other times of the year in Vrindavan, the weather is rather extreme. The winter is very cold, especially if you have no heating. And the summer is quite hot, especially if you have no air conditioning. But Kartik is one of the few times of the year in India where the weather is quite nice the whole time. Now, in Kartik, we also have Govardhan Puj, Go Puj, and we also have the time when Nanda Maharaj was going to perform that was Govardhan Puj, a Indra Puj. So it seems that generally, even 5,000 years ago, it was a nice time for sacrifice. But what we sing every day in most of our temples around the world is the Dhammarastika prayers, because apparently this is the time when Mother Jasoda tied up Lord Krishna, or at least attempted to tie him up at first with many ropes, and was not able to succeed in doing so. So as we know, the story actually takes place in the heavenly planet. The beginning of the story takes place in the heavenly planets, where Nalakuvara and Manigriva, two sons of Kuvara, were bathing in the Ganges, or the Mandakini Ganges, in the heavenly planets. And they were enjoying heavenly apsaras, like a male elephant enjoys female elephants. Apparently, according to our acharyas, Nalakuvara and Manigriva had bad association, especially with Kamsa, and therefore became degraded. To the rescue, as usual, was Narada Muni, who happened to be passing by where Nalakuvara and Manigriva were bathing with these heavenly damsels. And the heavenly damsels, they covered their bodies quickly out of embarrassment because the great sage was passing by. But Nalakuvara and Manigriva, the sons of Kuvara, because they were intoxicated, they didn't cover their bodies. So they obviously represent the current state of society, especially in Kali Yuga, where one's body has become the worshipful deity. And in order to enjoy our worshipful deity, we need an associate. More or less a perverted reflection of Radha and Krishna. And so it begins with Nalakuvara being engrossed in the Bali concept of life, trying to enjoy sex, intoxication, and eventually, as it says, probably explains in the purport, eventually that leads to animal killing. One becomes insensitive to all kinds of others' feelings. In other words, we have a choice in the material world. Either we become absorbed in gratifying our senses, or we become absorbed in gratifying Krishna's senses. Depends where we're going to put our consciousness. When we're in the material concept of life, then we're absorbed in gratifying our own senses. Our own senses means we gratify them through these gross and subtle bodies. But ultimately, it's just like we're trying to gratify our senses in the name of serving our worshipful deity, namely this body. In other words, in the material world, as it was for Manigriva and Nalakuvara, everyone's body is a worshipful deity. As I've said before, we look in the mirror and we ask the mirror, mirror, mirror on the wall, who's the greatest of them all? And generally the mirror answers, my dear soul, after so many lifetimes, you finally are getting darshan for the worshipful deity in the mirror. So please render unalloyed, uninterrupted service to that deity. So being enlightened with our aim of life, we decide that now is the time I should serve my deity with full enthusiasm and uninterruptedly. And if we're a little pious, then we decide to take a shower in the name of Abhishek for the deity. And then we feed the deity 5 kinds of foodstuffs. We decorate the deity. We perfume the deity or put cologne on the deity. We decorate the deity. And then we go out into the world to spread the glories of our deity all over the world. That's called Sankirtan. So everyone has their worshipful deity, and we're walking around in it. And we're determined to serve it, whatever its desires and demands are. But the alternative is to serve the demands and desires of Krishna. If we become aware of the fact that we're eternal servants of Krishna, and that when we serve Krishna, then the happiness is unlimitedly greater than we could get from any service to either our personal body or anyone else's body. So that's Nalakuvara, Manigriva. We're on the heavenly planets, where the enjoyment is hundreds and thousands of times greater than our enjoyment here. And therefore, by bad association, they got into irregular habits. And by Narada Muni's mercy, they were cursed to become trees in Vrindavan. Being cursed to become trees in Vrindavan, they were able to witness Krishna's pastimes. And witnessing Krishna's pastimes, obviously, they became enlightened. They became Krishna conscious. And during that time, we know that Mother Jasoda was always carefully guarding Krishna. As a matter of fact, Mother Jasoda, she got some special cows because Krishna, he was always stealing butter and yogurt from the neighbors' houses. As a matter of fact, Krishna not only stole personally butter and yogurt from the neighboring houses, but he even organized a mafia in Vrindavan, which terrorized everyone's house in Vrindavan. No one knew when Krishna and his band of thieves would come and steal whatever butter and yogurt they had. Of course, our acharyas say that actually the mothers and the fathers in Vrindavan all considered Krishna their most worshipful son. And therefore, they're always praying, when will Krishna come and steal our yogurt and butter? But they never said that, otherwise the pastimes would be rather dull. And therefore, the excitement is there that Krishna and his cowherd boyfriends would have to sneak and try to steal butter and yogurt from the cowherd men and the cowherd women in Vrindavan. Sometimes Krishna would get caught. One time he got caught, and one of the cowherd ladies said, "Finally, we caught you." And she started to drag Krishna she caught hold of Krishna and was taking him to Mother Jasoda to tell Mother Jasoda, "I've caught this thief red-handed. I've caught him stealing my butter and yogurt. So now you should chastise him." But when she got to Mother Jasoda, Krishna turned into her son, that son of that cowherd lady who had caught Krishna. And therefore she dragged what appeared to be her son to Mother Jasoda, saying, "I caught the thief." And when Mother Jasoda, Krishna was presented to Mother Jasoda in the form of the son of this cowherd lady, Mother Jasoda looked surprised and said, "Why are you dragging your son here? Are you claiming he stole your butter and yogurt?" So this cowherd lady was shocked. How is it possible? I know it was Krishna. How is it that I grabbed my son and I'm taking him to Mother Jasoda? So she said, "Oh, I'm sorry, there must have been some mistake, So then she was taking her son back, and then Krishna had turned again into Krishna and said, "You better not try it again." So there's some eternal Leela going on in Vrindavan, where Krishna is working as a thief with his cowherd boyfriends and stealing yogurt and butter. But Mother Jasoda was thinking, Krishna is going all around Vrindavan. Somehow or another, he doesn't like our butter and yogurt in my house. So she got some very special cows, just a few special cows, and fed them only organic grass, the best grass in Vrindavan. The juiciest, the most sweet, juiciest grass in Vrindavan. And then she personally had the milk from those cows, she personally churned that milk to make it into butter and yogurt, so to feed Krishna. So Krishna would get a higher taste, and maybe he'd give up stealing from the neighbors because he would actually become satisfied with the milk and yogurt and butter in her house. So sometimes she churned the butter, and sometimes her maidservants. But one day the maidservants were busy doing something else, so she decided she'd keep on churning the butter so that Krishna would get some butter to eat and stop his stealing propensities. So while he was doing that, Krishna woke up from his nap and he was hungry. So he went to Mother Yasoda asking for her breast milk. And as we know, while he was being breastfed, the milk from those very special cows was boiling over the top of the pot. And Mother Yasoda had to go there and take the milk off the stove in order to protect the milk from burning. Leaving Krishna alone there, Krishna became very angry that Mother Yasoda, she's neglecting me. She doesn't want me to steal. I'm hungry. What to do? So Krishna thought, Mother Yasoda, she's neglected me. She's chastised me for stealing. She's leaving me here hungry. So let me do something mischievous. So he took a rock and he hit the pot with it, and the yogurt came out, and he started to eat it. But then he realized that Mother Yasoda might catch up with him and chastise him. So he took some yogurt and went to a secluded place. And since he couldn't eat all the yogurt, he started to feed it to the monkeys. So Mother Yasoda came back after putting taking the pot off the fire, and saw that Krishna wasn't there, but there was a broken pot and there was a trail of yogurt. So she followed the yogurt, and then she found Krishna with yogurt and butter, which he had broken in another pot, and is feeding this butter and yogurt to the monkeys. So Krishna saw Mother Yasoda was sneaking up on him with a stick in her hand. So being afraid, he started to run. And as we know, Krishna is quicker than the mind. So Mother Yasoda was running after him, but she couldn't catch him. Finally, after Mother Yasoda was exhausted, Krishna allowed himself to be caught. And Mother Yasoda decided that my son is very mischievous. He's getting himself into so much difficulty. Maybe I should try to help him and calm him down a little bit, because he was all excited. As we hear in the Dhammarastika prayers, Krishna's lotus eyes were full of tears, and his breathing became quick because he thought Mother Yasoda now she's going to beat me. I've crossed the line, and this is it. And finally, I'm going to get beaten. So he's shivering in fright. His pearl necklace was shaking. Tears were in his eyes. So Mother Yasoda, of course, as our acharyas say, we may think, oh, Krishna, he's God, he knows everything. Maybe he was just pretending to be frightened. But our acharyas say that actually Krishna felt frightened. Because we can't imitate Krishna. How is it that we can be in everyone's heart as Paramatma, know everything in all the universes, know everything in the spiritual world. And then when Mother Yasoda approaches with a stick in this pastime, become frightened. But that's Krishna. We could say he compartmentalized himself in such a way as he can be fully aware of everything, and at the same time feel himself under the spell of Yogamaya to be a tiny baby dependent upon Mother Yasoda. When we come to the platform of pure Krishna consciousness, maybe we'll be able to understand that more deeply. In any case, Krishna was quite frightened. And Mother Yasoda saw Krishna was frightened, and she thought, well, I'm Krishna's mother, that if he's frightened of me, then what will happen when he grows up? He'll have psychological complexes. And there are no psychiatrists in Vrindavan, so he'll be disturbed for the rest of his life. So she thought, well, what to do? If I just let him go, then he'll do more mischief. Because right now he's in a very disturbed state of mind. Who knows what he's going to do? So she decided to tie him up. And as we know, she tied him up with many ropes from the house, but they're always 2 inches short. And this went on for some time. Mother Yasoda trying to tie up Krishna. And then finally, Mother Yasoda became exhausted, and Krishna took compassion upon his mother's effort and allowed himself to be tied up. Therefore, he's known as Damodar, because Mother Yasoda, Dama means rope, Udara means the belly, so he was tied up by the belly with a rope by Mother Yasoda. He's also called Damodar because Srimati Radharani ties him up with her glance. Controls Krishna by glancing at him. In any case, as we know, that this is a pastime where Krishna shows the reality of his being simply subservient to his devotees. That this is the reality in Goloka Vrindavan, the highest existence, and where Krishna displays his original qualities and activities. And there he's simply a seemingly ordinary person, one of the members of the cowherd community of Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yasoda. And there, even when Mother Yasoda threatens Krishna, Krishna becomes afraid. And from Krishna, this Krishna who becomes afraid when he sees the stick of Mother Yasoda, all the material and spiritual universes are manifested. Therefore, we should understand that this is the actual reality, the ultimate reality, and everything besides this is more or less either under the control of Yogamaya, as in the Vaikuntha planets where Krishna is worshipped with awe and reverence, as we know in the song of the Dhammarastaka. Krishna is not so much pleased when he's worshipped in awe and reverence, because it's not his normal situation. Although whatever Krishna does is pleasure, unlimited pleasure, still there's something missing in the relationship with awe and reverence, because his original relationship is in the spiritual world as a little boy, at least. In Gokula Vrindavan, when Krishna comes here, as he did 5,000 years ago, then he's a little baby and he grows up. In the original Goloka Vrindavan, Krishna is not a baby. He's a Kumara. He's not a Kumara or Poganda. He's in the Kaishura stage, eternally, Navayovana. He's an eternally youth. But even then, Mother Yasoda and Nanda Maharaj in the spiritual world treat him as if he was a baby. Even here in the material world, someone may be 50 years old, 60 years old, and if their parents are still alive, then the mother still sees her child as being a baby, although he may be 60 years old. Because that's the nature of either material illusion or spiritual illusion. Here we're under material illusion, which is a reflection of reality. And the spiritual world, they're under spiritual illusion. So they're eternally, Krishna is seen in different ways by different of his devotees. Just like when Krishna walked into the arena to fight against the wrestlers that Kamsa had arranged, that at that time, everyone saw Krishna differently. Kamsa saw Krishna as death personified. The wrestlers saw him as a thunderbolt, strong as a thunderbolt. The yogis saw him as Paramatma, that they were meditating on. The members of the Vrishni dynasty and the Yadu dynasty, they saw him as their most beloved ancestor. The ladies there, they saw him as Cupid personified. Well, Devaki and Vasudeva and others saw him as their little baby. So this is true for everyone. Here in the material world, we see everyone with different eyes, according to our relationship with them. And so in the spiritual world, everyone sees Krishna differently, according to the relationship with them. And Krishna acts perfectly, not artificially, but under the spell of Yogamaya. Krishna perfectly reciprocates with each one of his devotees. To the extent that although he may expand himself, for instance, on this planet, in 16,108 different Krishnas, in 16,108 different palaces in Dwarka, but he expands himself not exactly in the same form, but in a form which is just suitable for each one of the queens. Maybe one queen likes Krishna's hair a little bit more curly, or likes his lips a little bit more red, whatever. So Krishna perfectly reciprocates with each queen, just and actually expands himself in a form which is just suitable for that queen. So Mother Yasoda, she was binding Krishna, and Krishna reciprocated with her effort and allowed himself to be bound. And it says actually that the missing rope, the missing 2 inches, was the loving determination of Mother Yasoda to serve Krishna. Her sincere effort. Krishna reciprocated with that and allowed himself to be bound up by the ropes. But of course, that's not the end of the pastime, as we know that Krishna or Yogamaya had arranged the pastime so that Krishna would have the opportunity to drag the uluka, the grinding wheel, through the 2 Arjun trees in which Nalakuvara and Manigriva had appeared in. And when he took the grinding mortar through the 2 trees, the grinding mortar got stuck between the 2 trees, and Krishna pulled on the grinding mortar, and the 2 trees fell down. And out of the 2 trees came Nalakuvara and Manigriva, who began to offer prayers to Krishna. And of course, Krishna was only a little baby at the time. And his friends were all little babies too. So they were all amazed, who are these 2 effulgent looking people coming out of these trees? Why are they offering prayers to Krishna? In any case, the sound of the 2 trees falling made a big noise. The residents of Vrindavan came running to find out what happened. By this time, Nalakuvara and Manigriva had finished their prayers and went back to the heavenly planets as pure devotees. And when they got there, they couldn't find Krishna or his friends because they were underneath the leaves of the tree. And everyone was wondering, everyone was in great excitement, great anxiety. What happened to Krishna and his friends? Maybe they got crushed by the tree. So they're looking everywhere. Finally, Mother Yasoda came. And although Krishna was trying to hide himself because Mother Yasoda's intense love for Krishna, he couldn't keep up the disguise, and therefore he manifested himself through the leaves. And then they found Krishna and his friends. And then Krishna ran over to Nanda Maharaj and jumped on his shoulder. And Nanda Maharaj said, "What happened? Who did this to you?" And Krishna, with tears in his eyes, said, Mother did it to me. So Yasoda, and then Rohini started to chastise Mother Yasoda. Why did you allow your son to be put in such a dangerous position? Don't you see the trees are falling here? And you actually put your, so everyone started to get on Mother Yasoda's, started to criticize her. So it was too much for Mother Yasoda. So she ran away and hid for days without eating. And Mother Yasoda's associates and her servants, they also did the same thing. So days went by, Mother Yasoda was completely in anxiety and not eating, fasting. And Nanda Maharaj started to miss Mother Yasoda and said, where is Yasoda? You know, what's happening? So he realized, Nanda Maharaj realized that this is all very artificial. Krishna is suffering because he's not with Mother Yasoda, although he's very happy because usually Krishna paid all his attention to Mother Yasoda and gave a little of his attention to Nanda Maharaj. But now Nanda Maharaj got all of Krishna's attention, so he really appreciated that quite a lot. But after some time, he was wondering, where is Mother Yasoda? Because she's just like the mother of Vrindavan. Without her, a whole section of rasa is missing. So Nanda Maharaj told Krishna, he said, because anyone who mistreats one of my subjects, that, and Nanda Maharaj put up his arm, he said, with these strong arms, I'm going to have to eliminate them. So when Krishna heard that perhaps Nanda Maharaj was going to threaten Mother Yasoda, so Krishna couldn't tolerate that. So he jumped off Nanda Maharaj's shoulder or his arms, and he ran towards Mother Yasoda. And then they united with each other with great affection. So basically, Kartika is especially the pastime of Yasoda binding Krishna and how Krishna becomes subservient to his devotees and how his actual ultimate personality is that of a very soft cowherd boy in Vrindavan, not as a great controller, as Nanda Maharaj or Paramatma or his representatives in this world as the demigods or the demons, whatever else we may see Krishna is represented by in our existence. But the ultimate reality is a very loving cowherd boy in Vrindavan. So one who understands that understands more clearly how everything is ultimately being done for one's and other people's welfare. Tate nukampam susamikshamano punjana evatma kritam vipakam vidvagvapuvir vidadanamaste jiveta yo bhukti sadeh sadayabak. Padeh sadayabak. Generally, we see good and evil in this material world, and therefore we think evil is in control or good is in control, but ultimately Krishna is always in control. And when evil appears and the reactions to evil appear, it's because people have free will, but they have to get the results of misusing their free will also. And that results in the terms of undesirable circumstances are actually meant to be an encouragement to give up the activities that cause those undesirable circumstances. Of course, for Krishna and for those who are liberated or those who can see with knowledge, they can understand that nothing is really happening in this world to the souls. Because the soul can't be cut to pieces by any weapon, or burnt by fire, nor moistened by water, or withered by the wind. So in this world, it is more or less like a play that's going on. Nothing is really happening to the soul, but the soul is experiencing something like a dream. Or in Kali Yuga, we could say it's more like a nightmare. And it's very unpleasant. And it's especially unfortunate if we're going to stay around the material world forever, simply suffering. Krishna is trying to wake us up, and we refuse to wake up. We want to stay in this nightmare and make it as pleasant as possible, because we've made the wrong choice. Instead of worshiping Krishna, we're worshiping whatever material body we happen to find ourselves in the 8,400,000 species of life. So Krishna is trying to invite us, trying to explain back to the spiritual world by showing his pastimes here, so we can understand how nice Krishna is, how loving Krishna is, and how happy we can be if we revive our relationship with him. Same thing goes for Nanda Maharaj and the pastime of Govardhan, which is also during this month. The Govardhan Puj, which was originally meant for Indra Puj, happened just after the Brahmanas were doing their sacrifice in order to go to the heavenly planets. And Krishna had asked the cowherd boys in order to beg some food, because supposedly Krishna and Balaram were hungry. But as we know, the Brahmanas, because they were smarter Brahmanas, they didn't even pay any attention to the cowherd boys when they asked for charity first for Balaram as a Kshatriya, and for Krishna, because Krishna is a Vaishya. So they were very proud, and they thought, we're Brahmanas, we're doing the sacrifice, you're bothering us, asking for charity for some cowherd boy. So they just didn't pay any attention. The cowherd boys went back to Krishna and said, dear Krishna, these learned Brahmanas, they wouldn't even listen to us, what to speak of giving us any food. So Krishna said, well, actually, you should go to their wives, because they're my dear devotees, and they'll certainly reciprocate with you. The cowherd boys went back and to the houses of the wives of the yogic Brahmins who were performing the sacrifices. And as soon as the wives of the Brahmins heard that Krishna and Balaram were in the forest nearby, and that they were hungry, then immediately they took the food from the sacrifice that was offered in the sacrifice and put it in containers and went to the forest to satisfy Krishna, Balaram, and his cowherd boyfriends. So this pastime demonstrates that Krishna did not like the idea of sacrifices to the demigods, especially when he's personally present. And indeed, when the wives of the yogic Brahmins came there, Krishna actually sent them back, but with the idea is that they should meditate on him, and that in the future that they'd certainly be able to have his personal association again, and that their husbands wouldn't be disturbed. On the other hand, they'd realize that actually they were fortunate to have such devoted wives to Krishna, and that they themselves should have gone out and pleased Krishna, because it's the duty of every living entity to serve Krishna. So even the yogic Brahmins realized their mistake and how exalted their wives were, although out of fear of Kamsa, they didn't go and meet Krishna. Later, shortly after that, Krishna saw that his father and the other cowherd men of Vrindavan were preparing to perform a sacrifice. So Krishna inquired from Nanda Maharaj, who is the sacrifice for? Is it just a normal ritual? Is it ancestral? Do you do what's happening? Why the sacrifice? So Nanda Maharaj explained that actually this is the sacrifice to Indra, because Indra supplies rain, and from the rain we get grass, and the grass feeds our cows, and we're dependent on our cows for our economic development. So Krishna, because he came here to discourage worship of anyone except for himself, as he said, Sarva Dharma Prajaja Mam Ekam Sharanam Braja Ahang Tvang Sarapapebhyo Mokshisyami Masuchaha. Therefore, he spoke to Nanda Maharaj in such a way as to appear to be an atheist. He said, why are you worshiping Govardhan? Why are you worshiping Indra? Actually, you should be worshiping Govardhan Hill, because we don't really need Indra. Indra, he supplies rain, that's true, but he supplies rain everywhere, even in the ocean, which there's no sacrifice going on in the ocean, but still he's supplying rain there. So the reality is, Krishna talked as an advocate for Kama Mimamsa, that if we do our duty, then the demigods or whoever is the controller, they are obligated to give us the results of our work. So there's no need to sacrifice for Indra. We just do our duty, and our duty is we're cowherd men, and therefore our duty is to protect the cows, do agricultural work, and protect cows, and maybe some business. So instead of worshiping Indra, we should worship Govardhan Hill, because Govardhan Hill is supplying the grass and the water and the other necessities for the cows and for ourselves. So the cowherd men agreed to that, and of course we have the Govardhan Puj, and we find Indra becoming angry that he's not being properly worshipped as he normally is, and so he takes revenge on Vrindavan by having this some Artika clouds come over Vrindavan. Some Artika clouds are those who inundate the whole universe at the time of devastation, at the time of the end of the cycles, when Brahma goes to sleep. So these clouds came and started inundate Vrindavan, and Krishna, of course, gave them protection under Govardhan Hill. Indra tried to destroy the hill and Vrindavan by continuously sending rain and lightning and thunder for 7 days and 7 nights, until finally Indra came to his senses and he was thunderstruck. And then he came and surrendered to Krishna. So there's another part of Vrindavan that we should simply take shelter of Krishna, and that Krishna will protect one. That if we actually make Krishna, as Krishna says, Sarva Dharma Prajaja, Mame Ekam Sharanam Prajaja, we surrender to Krishna, then Krishna will give us all protection that's necessary. Krishna is not only all good, all loving, all beautiful, but he can also protect us, that there's no need to worship anyone else or to do anything else other than worship Krishna. So those who know that, they can focus their minds happily and peacefully on Krishna and not be disturbed by anything else. Then in this age, if we simply chant Hare Krishna and we focus our minds on Krishna and do some service to the Sankirtan movement, then Krishna will take care of everything else. Ananyas chintayanto amam ye jana paripasate tesham nityabhyuktanam yoga shemam bahamyaham. To those who are constantly devoted, meditating on my transcendental form, To them, I carry what they lack, and I preserve what they have. So this month of Kartik, with these two festivals, well, one is the chanting of the Dhammadarastika prayers regularly, and the other is Govardhan Puj, Go Puj. Of course, also we have now the disappearance day of Srila Prabhupada, and other such festivals. These the main motive, the main motif is Krishna's all-loving, all wonderful, and at the same time, he's all-powerful, so he'll give his devotees all protection. So I'll stop there, and I'll ask if there's any questions.
Харе Кришна, дорогие преданные, пожалуйста, задавайте свои вопросы. У вас есть такая возможность, включайте свой микрофон. И, пожалуйста, представляйтесь, с какого города вы и, может быть, ваше духовное имя.
There's someone with a
Да, я
hand.
пам'ятаю, Прабhu хочет задать вопрос, задавайте.
Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna.
Maharaj, Dandavat, please accept my humble obeisance from Moscow.
Hare
Я,
Krishna.
Я угнетаю. Лучше на русском задайте, пожалуйста, чтобы могли
Да.
всем перевести.
Я на
И-
Секундочку, вы задайте на русском и потом переведите сразу на
Я на
английский. Вы
русском.
английский знаете?
могу и не переводить, вы сами можете перевести.
Да,
Вот,
потому
я
что Матаджи Лавангалата, она не сможет для Махараджа перевести, потому что Гуру Махараджа не слышит, переводчик, она на другом канале для,
То есть
для
надо
русских.
Махараджу перевести, да? Я так понял.
Да, задайте вопрос на русском и сразу переведите сами на английский.
Да. Махарадж, вот есть проповедники, они рассказывают только Мадхурья расу, объясняют. Вот. И это вот что-то похоже на сахаджию. Избежать в нашем движении, потому что во время Сакура тенденции, слышно, да?
30 запомнили. Ну да, примерно такая цена одинаковая. 30 запомнили, то есть как бы готовы.
Микрофон включен.
Преданные, пожалуйста, выключите микрофон. Кто сейчас не задает вопрос? Вас слышно.
Я выключил.
Особенно в российском, такая у проповедников некоторых, значит, пробовать на Мадхурья, да. Вот в этом как бы вопрос. Да, перевести? Махарадж, today in nowadays we have tendency some concentrate preaching Katha only Madhurya Rasa. Maybe it's a Sahajiya tendency in nowadays. What happens, what to do and stop this tendency in movement in Russia?
No, Parimayas.
You listen to me, listen sound.
Slushu. No,
Now
no Parimaya.
senior in concentrate.
Прабху, Харе Кришна. Давайте я на английском переведу Махараджу, чтобы было просто хорошо слышно и с английского канала.
Может, у меня прерывается?
Да, у вас прерывается.
Давайте. Вы переведите.
Maharaj Hare Krishna, his question is about Sahajiya. He told that some of the preachers in Russia they preach only upon the Madhurya Rasa. So, and his question, can it lead to Sahajiya, and what we can do with that?
What can you do? I don't know what you can do. I don't know what you can.
Me either. But he asked about that.
Well, Prabhupada said if you lie to, We have a lot of echo
Sorry?
there. We have a lot of echo there.
Madhurya Rasa.
No, I
So the
understand.
base they
I
push
understand. But
upon
we have
Madhurya Rasa.
echo. It's hard to speak when there's an echo.
Исключая обсуждения другие. Вот что проблема.
Okay, so first thing is we should read Bhagavad Gita. We read Bhagavad Gita, then we'll discover actually we're not this body. Not only that, we'll discover that everyone in the material world to some degree or another who's under the modes of material nature is crazy. And therefore, if we think we can understand Krishna's pastimes in the spiritual world in our present conditioned state, then that means that we're even more crazy than we should be, than we normally are. We have no idea of who we are. We don't even know who that little 1/10,000th size of tip of hair and soul is, or what the quality is. We're vaguely conscious of the fact that we're conscious. And then we're trying to understand what Krishna's pastimes are in the spiritual world. So this is just another symptom of our madness. Therefore, our tendency, whether Krishna is dancing with the gopis, or playing with his cowherd boyfriends, or stealing butter and yogurt in his childhood, we have really no access to what's going on there transcendentally. One actually needs spiritual senses to experience the reality. In any case, it's certainly less entangling to think of Krishna as the thief in Vrindavan than to think of Krishna as the lover of Radharani in the bushes of Vrindavan. Because otherwise we take our own experience and the only thing we have is our experience presently. And then we try to impose it upon Krishna's experience. But that doesn't work. But it's a natural thing that we do, because that's the only thing that we can go on is our own personal experience. Therefore, better to hear Bhagavad Gita, understand how we've been put into illusion, how we can get out of illusion, at least theoretically what reality is like, and how to experience it under our present condition. And mainly by the act of pure devotional service. And that pure devotional service is exactly the same thing in this age as Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, whether with the cowherd boys, or with the gopis, or with Mother Yasoda, or the servants. That's the Sankirtan movement. The Sankirtan movement is the only way we can express our current conditioned state in a way to spiritualize it. By sincerely trying to practice Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's teachings as given to us by our acharyas through Srila Rupa Goswami and our founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada, and then try to encourage others to practice in the same way. The chanting of the holy names, the spreading of the Sankirtan movement, taking a prasadam, worshiping the deities. Then one will gradually become purified, and then one will be able to understand that there's no difference between Krishna and Krishna's name, Krishna's qualities, Krishna's pastimes, etc. That all his pastimes have the same spiritual nature. Whether it be Krishna as a cowherd boy in Vrindavan, or Krishna on the battlefield Kurukshetra, they all have the same ecstatic, loving nature. And therefore one will naturally find one's real identity as one becomes a perfect devotee. And one will not see that one rasa is superior to another rasa. Here in the perverted reflection, all we know is how to gratify our senses, these senses in this body that we're in. And the main attraction that we've come to the material world is to imitate Radha and Krishna's pastimes. So that's very entangling. And if we don't handle this material conditioned life properly, and we start superimposing our own mundane pastimes on Krishna's pastimes, and imagining that we can understand Krishna through our own experience, then we'll simply get entangled. Not only we won't understand spiritual, but we won't even understand the proper way of dealing in the material world. So as I said, the best remedy is to read Bhagavad Gita, try to practice it, read Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srimad Bhagavatam, try to practice it by practicing sadhana. Get up early in the morning, chant Hare Krishna without offense, japa, hear Srimad Bhagavatam, try to live in a sacred, try to make the atmosphere that we're in sacred, and try to learn how to serve the devotees. And then when we're mature, when we're a little advanced, try to give this experience to others in the form of the practice of sadhana bhakti and the spreading of Krishna consciousness to others, so they can also revive their relation with Krishna and whatever it might be. Those who are, one time Prabhupada was in Los Angeles, and at that time they had two clubs. It was nicknamed the Gopi Baba Club. There was a male Gopi Baba Club and a female Gopi Baba Club. And when Prabhupada came to visit Los Angeles, the leaders there were concerned that there were another separate movement going on where they were meeting the male devotees were meeting separately from the female devotees. And the only thing they were reading were Krishna's pastimes with the gopis from Prabhupada's books. So when Prabhupada heard about that, he became very concerned and said, if they keep on doing that, then this will destroy the Sankirtan movement. And then some of them said, well, according to the Bhagavatam, it says if one hears Krishna's pastimes with the gopis, then whatever lust is within one's heart will disappear. And Prabhupada's response was that they won't become purified, these devotees. He said they'll become putrefied. They'll become degraded. That different medicines are meant for different people. You have to find out from the expert doctor which is the appropriate medicine for oneself. Not that you go to the drugstore and you see all the different bottles of medicine and you look at your sari or your dhoti and you think, well, this matches my dhoti or sari. Maybe I should try that medicine. That will not be very helpful of getting cured. One has to find out from the expert doctor what is the appropriate medicine. Similarly, there may be different medicines, different methods of advancing according to one's level, what one should hear about. But for a devotee who's not on the liberated platform, hearing Radha Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan without the proper understanding will actually lead to one's degradation rather than one's elevation. First become liberated, as Prabhupada said, first deserve and then desire. First become a lawyer before you become a high court judge. First become liberated before you try to understand Krishna's intimate pastimes with his associates in Vrindavan. If you don't even know the person, you want to go and meet the president of a country, but you don't even know him. And as soon as you see him, you start asking about how he's doing with his personal relation with his wife. It's an insult. Neither he'll tell you, or you will be properly received by such an exalted personality. So first try to find out who we are, find out who Krishna actually is, before you start delving into his intimate family relationships. Okay, so I think we'll stop there. Thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Kartik month ki jai, Gaur
Hare Krishna, Maharaj.